What if the system of education can get you a somewhat better life, but robs you from the best life? What if you're losing the best of who you are because of a corporate agenda, or simply becoming really, really smart about things that are limiting and hitting a ceiling? What is education? What if it's more indoctrination than real learning and limits the most important skill for wealth and growth? Well, let's talk about this, because look, when I was 18 years old, I spent the summer in South Korea. Initially, someone said, you know what, you could probably be a model, which intrigued my narcissistic ego at the time. I was like, I could go model? I went over there and ended up teaching English. Do we really need 6'3" white dudes in South Korea modeling? I taught everything from kindergartners to Daewoo executives, but I had this huge epiphany, because I'd go to movies and the movies would be subtitled in Korean, but then they would just be these movies from America, so they were in English. But in the intros to the movies, like in all the, where you'd normally get, the previews for upcoming movies, there would be these ads. And the ads, the one that I really remember was there's this Korean couple, they just got married, and it was summer, and I gotta tell you, the monsoon season is humid and hot, and they were showing her at home and just enjoying life, running the air conditioner, it's blowing her hair, it looked quite nice. But then she got super sick. And in the subtitles, it said that she got aircon disease. And if she would turn off her air conditioner and instead just run a little fan, I mean, she's sweating, but alive, that now everything would be better. Now, the reality was, it's just that they were using too much energy, but they're now saying it's aircon disease. And at 18 years old, I'm like, wait, what am I being lied to about? And I just went through life with a little bit more critical mind to understand that people might have an agenda behind what they're saying. And this served me in the financial space, because I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, which questioned these 9 things that we'd been trained, taught, and educated by Wall Street and institutions that really didn't lead to more wealth and prosperity. Well, for the person investing the money, it led to more wealth and prosperity for Wall Street and widened the wealth gap. Hey, pardon the interruption, but I've got a gift for you. Actually, 2. Killing Sacred Cows, my New York Times bestseller, hit #1 on Wall Street Journal, and my most popular book of all time, What Would the Rockefellers Do? Killing Sacred Cows is like a permission slip to have more success and avoid the missteps and myths around finance. And What Would the Rockefellers Do is taking these kind of big billionaire technology and ideas and bringing them to the masses. So it's a step-by-step financial system where you can start with as little as I did when I was 19 at $50 a month. So if you go to GarrettGunderson.com/offer, give me your email address, and I'll just shoot those books right over to you so you can enjoy and learn at your own pace. So maybe getting more degrees to get more respect and more pay, which was intentionally created as a way for us to go through the system. Maybe what happens is, yes, you get paid more per hour, but you're also trading your time for money and spending a lot of time getting a degree that you have to get a student loan for most people that ends up being 6 figures, and you have to pay off, and now you feel this burden, which then you're in that job trading time for money, and ultimately, maybe rather than being truly educated and helping people and finding out who you are, you're simply doing what you're told. So the question becomes, does a higher degree equal higher value? First, we have to ask, what's value? Value's perspective. For me, value could be a feeling of satisfaction, fulfillment, or joy. So what is it that you value? It might be fulfilling a want or a need, and many times a want might be more powerful than even a need. Now, there's those basic needs that just get us by, but are critical, like getting enough food or having shelter. Those can be, highly, highly motivating when they're not there. But a want can also be something of value too. A value might be getting a good or a service or an experience. So in order to create value, we've been taught that we create more value by going to school. But what about the school outside of school? Like, I never really let school get in my way of education. I learned more from my professors outside of the classrooms than I even learned from them inside the classrooms. I learned a lot from my peers and the people who had already graduated but were in my fraternity, and they were willing to sit down and teach me about business. My friend Sean taught me a lot about real estate. He taught me a lot that I just wouldn't have known otherwise, so I came out with a whole new level of knowledge. But what if school, more than anything, taught you how to obey and follow the rules and listen to someone else's voice rather than your own? What if your education has you neglect your sole purpose? Your sole purpose is your values, abilities, and passions combined for the highest context of living. It's not formulaic, it's who you are when you're at your best, fully self-expressed. We all have a different sole purpose. That's why we can exchange with each other and be more wealthy, because if we are focused and specialized and we can really dial in the value that we create consistent with who we are, we're going to add more value, because if we have more passion towards it and energy, and it's in the right form of our abilities, we're going to be able to deliver more rather than drudgingly and begrudgingly going through something just to get paid. So question becomes, who's the author of the books you get in school? Who's being paid for that? What's their perspective? How about your faculty members? Are they communists, socialists, or capitalists? Do they have their own negative bias towards money, towards prosperity? Are they playing the victim card? Are they simply regurgitating something that may even be outdated? What does the university stand for? And what do they stand against? And is that in alignment with your sole purpose and your values? So the question becomes also, what really gets you to add the most value in life? What if the education that people went through was more indoctrination? Yes, they're smart, but smart in something that might be limited. For example, in medical school, we have completely different methods of thinking and philosophy from Eastern versus Western. In today's medical school, there's so much influence by Big Pharma. You know, Big Pharma, the ones that had the opioid crisis and that are training our doctors to be customer service reps as much as proactive people that are actually trying to help human beings. It's hard when you're in an assembly line just pushing people through and paid by how much you prescribe. And then the people coming in watching commercials that say, if you frolic through the field and listen to this, life will be good, other than you might lose your left leg or everything might stop functioning when you have an aneurysm. This is Big Pharma that's all about profitability, not always about value. Yet they're training the people that tell you what to do to be healthy. And maybe there's a conflict of interest in how that works. That's just one example. See, what if this entire system's built upon more through consumerism? That if you just go to school more, and if you buy more and have more, then you'll be happier. And if you just sacrifice more, then one day, someday, life will be better. But what if that someday never comes? What if it teaches you how to seem intelligent in things that don't work, but keeps you from being open-minded to creation, open-minded to your inner voice, and ultimately conforming to what is being taught by these so-called more intelligent experts out there that may or may not have your best interest in mind and may or may not be able to be unbiased because of how they're being paid? So, who in the world determines what's taught? How's that updated? How relevant is it to providing more value in the world versus becoming more learned, where you know so much you stop questioning because you've been schooled? When I was in college, I took a nutrition class. You know what they taught in that nutrition class? The food pyramid. Remember the food pyramid? The pyramid that says 6 to 11 servings of carbs and barely any fat, which the brain operates on fat. Yes, they talked about a little fruits and vegetables, but ultimately there was nothing about how it was processed foods or sugars to get those carbs or not. And that was something that was just accepted through indoctrination. Crazy. You know, that South Korea experience starts to come up, and I just think the lesson here is never stop asking questions. Never stop working on yourself. Never take someone's opinion as definitive fact just because it's in a textbook. I went through financial classes in college that absolutely are not aligned with what's best for you. Because yes, in corporate finance, I learned a ton of great things, like what a hurdle rate was and why businesses wouldn't invest in something that didn't meet that certain rate of return because of what else they were doing. I learned about opportunity cost. I learned about so many things like margin and net profit versus revenue. But then when I took personal finance, it was limited in its scope, not considering opportunity cost, saying, hey, a shorter mortgage, you pay less interest, not looking at the interest that all of a sudden you lose because you're putting extra toward the mortgage. Or it was more simplistic and it had a lot more to do with an agenda, teaching about mutual funds rather than about focused investing. And so ultimately, I think it's great to invest in yourself. But what if investing in yourself happens outside of the classroom or outside of a degree? When I was young and I went through Strategic Coach, I learned more about business than I did in business. When I met with people that had been very successful and made mistakes in business and really open about that, I learned more from them than some of my professors. But I had professors I learned more from than I learned from the world of financial planning because they actually managed money before they became a professor. So it's about the relationship capital. It's about asking better questions. It's about discovering who you are so you know what the market actually values. Be willing to be wrong for a moment. And when you are, go, well, if that's not the best, what is? Stay intellectually honest. Don't care about so much about who's right, but what's right. And realize that a degree, well, it might be less useful than the deodorant by the same name. Because 54% of people that graduate college move back home. And 52% of millennials, in a study by CNBC, said their student loan wasn't worth it. And I think if you talk to them for about 30 seconds, you might agree. The question is, are you indoctrinated or educated? Hey, thanks for watching. I have to admit, I do enjoy to see the number of comments. I do enjoy seeing the number of views it really feels good to know that this content's getting out there and it's impacting someone. I've dedicated a quarter of a century to this, dissecting it, asking questions, learning from the very best minds I could possibly find, and it's great to be able to share this with you. So this is just a simple thank you. I appreciate you.